Hello and welcome to the 13th grave. We had a bit of a technical issue and
So we just,
we got to just kind of restart. I goofed and I put that video as unlisted so nobody would have seen it, uh, which is why it was
perfect.
not showing up on our main channel page. So, with that in mind, we are
That
back. This is Rex.
and this is Spooks.
All right.
Luckily, we caught this early though. Like it would have been really bad if we did the whole thing not realizing.
Yeah, I could have unlisted the stream, but then nobody would have seen it, so it would have been like, whatever.
Oh man.
I'm sure I
Um.
could have fixed it some other way, but I just decided to go this way.
So anyway, since we're starting over,
Yeah.
welcome to the ninth episode. Right? We're number
Yes,
9.
we
All
are on
right.
episode number 9.
Number 9.
Yep.
Number 9. Number
And
9.
we will be discussing the amazing Jeckel brothers. I didn't forget
Jake,
this time.
Jake and Jack, the amazing Jeckel brothers themselves.
Yes, they are
Uh,
the two halves of the juggling duo.
that
That
is
is
your
your soul.
soul.
Yeah. Yes. And so, with that being said, I'm going to roll our intro to get us started here. And then we'll jump into the news that we were trying to get to when I realized my big boneheaded mistake. So,
That's no worries. It's like I said, we're like a big new car, not a used car that you
yeah.
get when you first learn how to drive, and we're just relying on it the best we can.
Yeah. We're just like, oh, we'll get it this time, baby. Come on. Roll over.
Ugh. All right, go ahead and roll that beautiful beam footage.
It's funny you should mention that because you said that just as I I'd already like played half of it as you said it.
Oh, funny. Perfect.
But anyway, that's just how it's gonna be this episode. We're just gonna roll along. I mean, we're already starting 2 hours later than we normally do.
Yeah, we just had a
I've
lot
got
going on.
yeah, life is life that way.
Yeah,
And then I hurt myself pretty good last week, so I wasn't able to. We were supposed to go on last Thursday, but
yeah. Well, I mean, we're really late on this Juggalos Brothers stuff too because we missed it, and then
right. All right.
yeah.
But before we jump into all that, let's discuss the news topics that you were talking about.
Yes. All right. Yeah, I'll go ahead and pull it up. You won't be able to see me, like I said before, but it does not matter because I don't need to be seen. All right. First off, as of yesterday, the Three-Headed Monster Tour has ended. Um, I really wish they would have been more this way, but I understand they can only get what they can. I don't know. I don't know that I've heard of them really coming this far in a while, too. Now that I think about it, but anyways, I really wish I could have seen this. I've heard it was really, really good. Uh, this is like this tour to me is like a history in the making with having Esham, Violent J, and Ouija Mac. I mean, those are like
Yeah.
big, I think, key people when it comes to like the wicked shit and horrorcore, obviously. Um, but anyways, if you guys had any of you guys that are watching or seeing this later, went to the tour, let us know in the comments how it was because I would love to hear about that shit. Yeah, and then next I wanted to share a post that I had seen Ouija make talking about Violent J. And I just really liked what he had to say in it. I wish I could show it on the screen to show you guys, but you can go to his Twitter and see it. He did it yesterday. He made a tweet saying, "Never met a more selfless and caring person than Violent J. This man is the definition of a juggalo." And I really feel like, honestly, I feel that because I always get that from Violent J whenever I, hear his songs and hear him talking. Like, he really does project that vibe. And I really do feel like that is a good quality for juggalos, because I feel a lot of juggalos, like the real ones, are like that. And I feel like that is a good definition for sure. Like, I don't know, it just felt very spot on.
Right. Yeah.
I
Whenever
don't,
I watch him in interviews and stuff, he always seems, yeah, extremely down to earth, very approachable and
well,
understandable.
well, and you can always tell too, like in his interviews and stuff, like he's very like, so he always expresses how, well, I mean, Shaggy too, but just how much they love the Juggalos and the fans and everything, and how much love and how much gratitude they have towards them and stuff. Like I can't think of a single interview where they don't bring that up and don't talk about it.
Exactly. Yep.
And he cares about um expresses how much he cares about them all the time, and he cares about the people closest to him. Like I feel like he's expressed that many times.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Um, but anyways, yeah, I felt like that was something worth sharing. Oh yeah, and then Shaggy the Airhead on the 30th of this month. He's going to be releasing a album called Blood, Sweat, and Tears.
Okay.
Uh, he made that tweet today. I would again, I'd show you if I could knew how to put it on the screen, but the picture looks really cool. And I can only imagine it's going to be pretty fresh because Shaggy the Head does not disappoint from what all the stuff I've listened to by him, and
Right.
obviously all the shit he's done for ICP.
Right.
Um, and then uh, oh yeah, today and tomorrow, Violent J will be at the Day of the Dead concert show. Not sure if it's like a. I don't think it's a tour. I think it's just 2 days at the same place.
Oh, okay.
But that, from what I understand, sounds like it should be pretty fresh. And again, like if you're going to that shit, let us know how it goes and what it was like, because I'm kind of interested to see what that's about.
Yes, definitely.
Um, and then today, Shaggy or not Shaggy, sorry, Esham released a single out for his new album called OTB.
Okay.
Uh, he says is OTB is a trip down memory lane. I haven't had a chance to listen to it yet, but it sounds like if it's like his old school shit. At least that's what I'm hoping. That'd
Right.
be pretty cool. And then the single off of his album Purgatory that's coming out in July 7th. For those that don't know if anybody's heard that. Oh yeah, I also wanted to bring up too. Um, I don't know if you've heard or noticed this, but I've been hearing and noticing that Fago's been popping up in more places lately. Well, it's been a little while now, but it's still recent. But people have been finding Fago at like dollar stores and at grocery outlet and Walmart and stuff. And they're finding like the cans and shit too, not just like, the normal 20-ounce bottles.
Oh, good. Yeah. I wish it would show
Yeah,
up here where I'm at, but that hasn't happened
right.
yet.
Yeah, I don't know. But I thought that was pretty cool because Fago was kind of scarce for a while,
Right.
so I'm glad it's making a comeback again.
Yes.
And then the other thing, kind of random, but I got to thinking because I had seen somebody say something about the I guess I can get back on camera now because that's really all I have for news. But and I talked to you about this, but somebody was talking about the Twisted Pops, even though I'm not really into Twisted.
Right. Yeah, the new
But
twisted Funko Pops.
yeah, I mean, they've been out for a while, I think. But I feel like that's something I kind of wish ICP would look into. Like I was saying, because like honestly, I would throw down on that because there's so much cool shit they could do with like making pops of them and then like having variants of their like different face paints and shit, like Shangri-La era and whatnot.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And the Joker cards and Mr. Rotten Treats and whoever, all kinds of Dark Carnival characters.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
it's fucking, now that I'm thinking about it, they should fucking talk to, is it Seth MacFarlane? Is that the name of the guy that did Spawn? Right? I think that's his name.
Uh, Seth MacFarlane is Family Guy.
Is it Tom McFarlane? What the fuck's that dude's name? It's McFarlane, but I can't remember his first name.
Todd McFarlane.
Todd McFarlane, yes.
Yeah.
That guy. They should talk to him because they could make even some fucking badass. Because they make a lot of fresh, fucking cool figures,
Right.
and for all kinds of shit. And like, I could only imagine some like Dark Carnival figures by Todd McFarlane,
Right.
dude. Anyway, sorry.
Oh no, you're fine. You're fine. Well, I don't know what's going on with the stream. Oh, okay, we just popped back in. So, anyway, I've been watching it on my phone, just making sure everything's still live and doing what it's
Oh,
supposed to.
okay.
So, it's caught back up, so we're all right. Hopefully, not too
Good.
many hiccups tonight.
Well, if there isn't any hiccups, something's wrong.
That's, yeah, also true. Um, but on to the amazing Jeckel brothers. I am this is probably my number one favorite album, go-to album for just about everything. Like, don't get me wrong, I got massive love for Bang Pow Boom. That is my card. I will always claim that as my card. But if there's one album that is more nostalgic to me or means more to me, I don't know which one it would be. Because this is the one
Fair.
that you and I listen to all the time,
Yep.
uh, back and forth from Seaside. Oh, but anyway, Job Corps. Um,
Whatever. They
yeah,
know we're on the fucking
that's true.
Pacific Northwest, so it's not
That's true.
like
That's true. That's true. Uh, but yeah, then I don't know. This album just it's so ingrained in me. I could you could just start the CD and put it on any track and I probably know most of the lyrics to the songs. I mean, it's just that damn good.
yeah.
So, I was trying to figure out where we should start. Should we start by just talking about our favorite tracks and then move on to the lore? Or should we start with the
Well,
lore and then move on to our favorite tracks?
okay. What I have a question. When was the first time you heard any songs from the Jekyll Brothers? Was it when we were going back and forth, or did you hear any of those songs
No,
prior?
I hadn't heard any of those. That's why this album is so
Um,
important to me because like I knew the Great Malenko before you and
right.
I met, but that was the
Right.
only album that I had ever known.
That's fair.
Yeah. And so then when you started introducing me to more and more of the music,
Right.
that's when I started listening to the Jeckel brothers. And
I think that
yeah,
was the first album you bought, wasn't it? Or was it Bang Pa Boom?
Bang Pow Boom was technically the first album I bought, but then I did get
Okay.
Jeckel brothers and all of that stuff. So,
For me, the first time I had heard, well, not only like I was telling you this, and like I mentioned in our first episode, I think is when we were talking about it, but Riddlebox, I heard that first,
hmm
but I mainly knew like all the popular songs from that album. I didn't get a chance to like really just listen to it from front to end.
right.
And the Jeckel Brothers, though, that was technically the first album that I had listened to from beginning to end, and that was when we met, or you had
Morph.
introduced me to Morph, yeah,
Yeah.
and he had that album, and yeah, and I remember just listening to the whole thing. I was like, "Holy shit!" Like that shit blew my fucking wig back.
Yes.
um,
Yeah, and the
and
thing is, it sounded so different from Great Malenko, and it still stands out amongst all the cards in just such a unique way, I think. When you listen
well,
to other albums,
I kind of think they all do, but I think like that album though, I feel like I mean, there is kind of that in what I'm about to say in Riddlebox and Great Malenko, but I feel like Jeckel Brothers was that first real big like feel of like them really using the like rock shit in their albums and stuff, not just doing the rap part of horrorcore, but the guitars and the
that's yes. Yes, that is it. Yes.
and like obviously there's storytelling in like the Jekyll brothers, or I mean in all of them really, but when you get to some of the tracks in this album, I feel like it's some of Violent J's finest storytelling.
Yeah,
At least especially in like the early eras of ICP, I feel like it's some of the finest storytelling in this album.
I I can definitely agree with that because yeah, I mean just anyway, we'll talk about our favorite songs. I'm just gonna start quoting lyrics and stuff if I do
Right.
say what I'm about to say, but like
Um. Sorry. Go on.
but yeah, like my one of my absolute favorites on the thing or on on the album is uh I want my shit.
Yeah, that's a. So before we start getting into the tracks and stuff,
Yeah.
my other question I wanted to ask you real fast is: out of the two Jekyll brothers, which one did you prefer more, or did you like them both equally?
So with Jake and Jack, obviously everybody is going to say Jake. But what they
Right.
don't realize is, and I don't know, I'm sure most juggalos already know this, but for anybody peeking from the
But
outside in,
I could
is
also see
that,
that. I know
oh,
what
go
you're
ahead.
gonna say. Sorry, go on.
Yeah.
I'll
Uh,
wait.
yeah. A lot of people from the outside looking in, they'll think that Jack or Jake being the smiling one, he's not. In ICP lore, like you'll learn with Shangri-La and everything, or with the Wraith too, the frowny face is Jake. He's the good one. The evil one is
Mm-hmm.
Jack, the smiling one, the one that everybody sees, and
Mm-hmm.
it's the one everybody gravitates towards. But the other cool thing that I like about Jake and Jack too is they remind me a lot of the masks that you see in theater a lot with the smiling and the
Mm-hmm.
frowning one.
The drama masks.
Yes. But if you were to ask me which one I like more, uh, I would have to say Jack because when I first saw it, I always thought that Jack was Jake. And so that was always the
Cool.
face that I gravitated towards.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, I think that's I mean, I'm not technically sure with how many people actually know that or not either. But I would imagine that's a huge misconception between those two. But I could be wrong. But I mean, if you don't, if you do are confused on that, like go Google search their names and like look at like the products when you buy them, like whose name pops up on what, and you'll see what we're talking about. Like they're not who you think they are. Like if you don't know, I should say, they're probably not who you think they are.
Right.
But anyways, for
Yeah.
me, I would say I like them pretty much both equally as far as like who they are and what they represent and
Yes.
like their lores and stuff. But I gravitate more towards uh Jack, I think.
As well, the smiling one.
Or sorry, I meant Jake. Yeah, I was
Yeah.
already confusing myself because I was like flipping them around. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, Jake.
Yeah.
I gravitate more towards, and that's
Right.
another thing too. It's a little off topic, but I always wondered, and people can look at it and see if anybody's ever noticed this. But I've always wondered if the Shangri-La paint, especially when Shangri-La first came out, was modeled off of the Jeckel brothers paint because like Shaggy's, especially before, like there's times where his face paint, especially around the mouth, has like Jake's mouth piece,
Mm-hmm.
and then there's times where Jay's looks like he has Jake's.
Yeah.
And I've always wondered that because I've never really heard or seen anything confirm that, but I've always thought, and I know that some people say that Jack is supposed to be um Jay and Jake's supposed to be Shaggy, but
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, and two, yeah, when you listen to the album too, like, I just find it so weird too, because like all the songs that come up after they talk about Jack throw another, Jake catch one more. They'll try to catch all that's in store for how many souls will fall from the sky. But anyway, uh, and then they say Jake's name. Like some of the first songs that come after him, it's just so
Hmm.
crazy because they had terrible. You have um like all the bad things. Um, and then after Jack, that's when you get
Hmm.
Echo Side and uh, of course the very end song, which I just love that. There's no
Yeah.
planet he ain't turned, um,
Yeah.
and all of that stuff. Uh, but yeah, I always thought that was kind of weird because it's like, and if you listen to the tone shifts in the songs and stuff, like yeah. Oh, we gotta protest that because he's so fucking terrible. Anyway, but you can't help them
Um.
people eating out of them garbage cans.
um. What would you say was your first impression when you first heard that album?
um, I it's because of the era that it was in. It had a
Hmm.
very, and I'm not saying that they were copying anybody by any means. Please don't ever think
Oh
that. But
no.
because Limp Bizkit was huge at the time, Eminem was really huge at the time. Uh, and then my sister, love her so much, even though anyway, uh, she was getting me into rock music
Hmm.
uh at
It
the
has
same
a
exact time,
very
and
yeah.
so it was very catchy, and like "Fuck the World" was very much like that Limp Bizkit song where he's like, "If I say fuck two more times, that's 96 fucks and it's fucked up, right?" So "Fuck the World" was like huge for me.
Yeah.
Um, and
I
just
mean, it does have a very heavy '90s vibe to it. So
Oh yeah. But it also just like drew me in because of that. And it
Yeah,
had a lot of familiarity to it. Plus they also had guest artists and stuff on there too.
yeah,
So um and then of course back to Twisted, like having them featured in some of the songs, not as in the actual songs, but just as characters and stuff, like
yeah,
added
like the
the
scares and
comedic
stuff.
element. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I
So
mean, and that's my whole like with Twisted is like, even though I just hate everything that happened with them, you cannot deny the impact and influence and the stuff they did back then. Like
yeah,
they were
absolutely.
they were good and they were funny motherfuckers. Like
Oh God, yes. Oh hell yeah.
like
That's why every day I'm just like, come back, stop this. But anyway, I can't say that. Anyhow, um,
um yeah, what so do you want to go through the like the lore? Do you want to go over the tracks or do you want to go over like
so my first question is, if
mm,
you had to pick your number one song, like if you could not listen to any other Jekyll Brothers song and you had to only have one off of that
mm,
album, which one would it be?
God. Um I you know, honestly, it, it is a hard decision, but I think overall I would have to go with Echo Side just because I love the depth and description of how he tells the story in that song. Like it's a whole adventure listening to that song. Um so I'd probably have to say Echo Side.
Okay, that's a very good
Now,
pick.
I was almost gonna say Play With Me or Mad Professor.
Mm-hmm.
Those are fucking phenomenal songs too. Or even uh I Stab People or Stab. I love that song.
Yeah, I stab people's pretty funny. Yeah, for me, it is Come Play With Me. Um, I just the whole idea of a toy come to life, and from what I understand, like you were saying, I don't know if it's true, but I think you said something about it was a possible song for a Child's Play movie.
So yeah, what it was when they originally made that song, they made it for the Bride of Chucky.
Hmm.
And they ended up not using it. I'm not sure why or the whole story of why it didn't end up on there, but they said I'm guessing ICP was just like, fuck it, we'll put it on this album then or something. But yeah,
Yeah,
originally it was made for that movie.
yeah. I just love the whole aesthetic, and like you were saying with the storytelling of it, like I
Yes.
can totally see it. And it's just like, please come get your doggy so he doesn't chew off my fucking head.
Yeah. And
uh,
I don't know if they've ever made this connection, but like I've always like I know I've heard that Ding Ding Doll from um Yum Yum
Yum Yum.
Bedlam
Uh,
is a toy from the toy box in Riddle Box.
mhm,
Um, I've always kind of pictured that with the Play With Me song,
mhm.
but I don't know if that's ever been confirmed or an actual connection. But that's something that I've always had a head canon, I guess, for.
Right. And it's very well possible that it could be.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, no, that's uh just that one line where he's just like, and someday I'll get you in my hands and I'll play with you.
Yeah.
Just I freaking that's I just love that so much. That song is so freaking good. But then I love Terrible because it's just
Oh yeah.
it brings about all the hypocrisy of everybody out there and it makes so much sense. And then you
Well, yeah,
have
and how media tells you what is supposed to be terrible when there's so much worse shit going on out there, and
mm-hmm. And it's like, no offense to Kurt Cobain, but like that whole line about, when Kurt went bang
yeah,
bang, maybe I should do that shit so Jay can get
easy,
paid. you know?
easy, died, but it wasn't no thing.
Yeah, exactly. Like, and it's still true to this day. Like what
Yeah,
media and everybody puts importance on as far as like what's tragic and what's not.
right.
Yeah.
And I also like too that he kind of touches on the not talked about. Well, I mean, it's talked about a lot more now, but for the time when that song came out, you didn't really hear people talking about the history of just how fucked up U.S. history really is, and they kind of
Exactly.
touch on that too.
You put a slave owner on the
Slave
one
owner,
dollar
$1 bill.
Then you wonder why I kill people. like, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, and it also goes to show, like, not to go, full into history, but it does prove a lot of things,
yeah,
like all the atrocities that America has committed, but yet we have to be all like, yeah, go America, we're the greatest, and it's like,
yeah.
and then you look back and you're like, we have done some horrible, horrible things to the world, and we're still here. America's the greatest, and it's like that's just
America,
not how.
America.
Right. And then also talking about the rebel flag and everything else.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, that song sticks with me very well. I mean, oh god, if I had to pick top 10, let's see how many albums or songs are on this album. I'd
Fuck,
have a
man.
top 17. So let's just. uh,
So, how do we want to like cover them like separately and then together, or like how exactly were we wanting to?
well, yeah. Why don't we do a back and forth? Like, which songs have the most meaning to you and why, or which ones impacted you the most?
I was actually talking about the Jeckel brothers, but we can do this because I kind of like this idea. Um, well, I know I said Echo Side is for sure like another one too that like you had mentioned, is why can't I think of what that song's called now? The very last song.
oh, blah 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 blah.
Fuck.
Nothing's left.
Face. Yes, god damn.
Yeah.
Yes, nothing left. That song, whenever I listen to it, it gives me chills. Like it's just the way he goes into everything.
Right. Yeah.
Like it there's no planet he ain't turned. There's
There's no
no
leader that ain't been led. There's no blood that
yeah,
ain't been shed.
yeah, ain't no stove that didn't melt. Like that whole intro, it just gives me this chill, like you can feel something's coming. And you're just
Mm-hmm.
like, fuck, man.
Yeah.
I
And
just
I think
pray
it's
when the wagons come. I just pray that you let me on.
yeah. Um, and what's even better about that song is it's almost a perfect intro to the Wraith. Like they knew what they
Yeah,
were doing with that song.
oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, thinking about like if you were to somehow like if you were to play that and then have it just go into the Wraith, yeah, that would be a perfect like segment into like you yeah.
yeah.
Um and then also especially knowing the history of how they came out with the song Bitches to
Mm-hmm.
me is like it's a wonder that that song came out as good as it did.
Yeah.
Just
And
the fact that they had to like chop ODB's like shit up just to like make it coherent and good.
Well, and it just goes to prove their creativity too, because like the way that they were
Mhm.
able to incorporate it and then write a song around it and just make it. It is one of the most hilarious songs I think I've ever heard from them, and it's one that I constantly bitches, bitch, I'll do to you in the middle of your crew.
Uh, um, yeah, I love that. And then also that album, I love like because I'll talk to people and I'll be like, Snoop Dogg did a song with ICP, and they're like, no, the fuck he didn't. Like people don't fucking know that shit. And then
Yeah,
I'm like, fucking right here, and they're like, what the fuck?
yeah. Some uh, they always look at the plaques on your wall, stand around and scratch their balls, and it
I
seems
still
like
think
some
that was. Hmm?
and some bitch ass tries to steal your flow. So tell me, why is that so? It's like
I still
everywhere I
I
go.
still think that's really fresh too. That Snoop Dogg had put the Jeckel brothers in um his music video that he did.
Right.
He had him in that poster on the wall in the room. I can't remember the name of that video right now. I think it's called like I can't remember. It was a really weird name. I love the video though.
For which song?
Name. It was a Snoop Dogg song that he did. I think it was back when
Oh,
Trump first became president or something because he kills Trump at the end of it. But they have the Jeckel brothers on the wall
oh, okay.
in the one kid's room.
Right. Well, we shall figure out what that was.
It's like a weird name. That's all I remember. But
Hmm.
but yeah, I always find that funny when I show people that song. They're like, I thought I knew everything about Snoop Dogg.
Right. Well, and that, yeah, and again, it just the amount of hate that they still get, even to this day, is just
Well,
ridiculous.
I don't
But
know. I don't necessarily feel like. I mean, I'm sure they obviously get hate, and obviously there are people that hate them still. But I feel like it's not as much as it used to be. And I think they've even said that themselves that it's not as like it was.
right,
Because obviously there's more and more people that like them too. And
right. I found the video.
what's the name of the video again?
It's called "Bad, Bad, Not Good,"
Yeah. Okay.
and everybody is dressed up like a clown in the video.
Mm-hmm. There's also next to the Jeckel brothers, there's a corn poster too,
I'm
which they
trying to
did the
find that
song
clip.
from. It'll be in a kid like a kid's room or a teenager.
Yep, trying to find it. So let's see if I can find it.
It's too bad you can't put that on the screen.
Oh, I as soon as I find it, I'll figure out how to do it.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
And I always wish that they would have more stuff for merch for Jake because I always feel like Jack gets way more merch than Jake does.
Well, and yeah, that's why I was talking about why I was saying about people get it misconstrued because it's just like the Great Malenko and how big it was. It just goes to show like everything that you think is good is actually wicked and not good, obviously. Sorry to say it like that. It's
Yeah.
like it's the opposite.
Not to say that Great Malenko is evil or anything. There's a whole thing though. Theories and what I think on the Great Malenko that we'll cover
Right.
uh, when we get to him.
Yes.
Because I feel like I actually have more of a different take on Great Malenko than what I've been seeing other people say about
Yes.
him.
Well, I can't find it, and it's going to take too long. So I'm going to
Dang
be
it.
spending more time doing that
Yeah,
than,
that's fine.
yeah.
I'll show it to you though.
Yeah. But I know exactly what you're talking about now. So check out the video Bad, Bad, Not Good by Snoop Dogg, where he
Yeah.
shows the clowns love.
Yeah. That was so cool. Anyways.
So you were talking about Nothing's Left. Um, and then
Yeah.
obviously that was the Shaggy show that we were just talking about. Um,
Yeah.
one of the songs that had a huge, huge impact on me, even though it's not really like an impactful song, and they even made fun of it because there's only 50 states, not 52. But F the World is just like when I'm
Oh
mad
yeah.
or if I'm having a bad day, I can just throw that on, blast it out loud, and instantly things just get a little better. I freaking
Yeah.
love that song.
Yeah, it's I mean, who doesn't? I've never heard like even people that I knew that didn't really listen to ICP or were juggalos, uh if I threw that song on, people usually enjoyed it. Like
Yep.
when I was in Job Corps, me and Morph and our friend Boombox, he would always have this like stereo on
Hmm.
him
Right.
and he'd play all kinds of shit and we'd blast that song in like the smoking area and everybody'd be singing along and shit.
If I only could, I'd set the world on fire. Fuck the
Fuck the
world.
world.
Fuck 'em
Yeah,
all.
it was always that song, and we would also play the Ned song a lot, or the Ned game.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyways,
Yeah.
uh, so did we want to get into the Jeckel brothers, or
So, those are the impactful songs. So, yeah, let's get into the Jekyll brothers themselves.
yeah?
Jake and Jack being the duo juggling. And the one thing I think people might miss, not juggalos, but other people, but they are juggling every sin in your life essentially. And if either of them drop the ball or the sin is too great, your your entrance into Shangri-La is gone, and
Hmm.
you are on your way to Hell's Pit.
Yeah. So you want me to kind of go into what I
Yeah.
on the lore? Okay. So obviously you have and you can listen to the album. They explain it in their intros for each of the brothers, but like Jack is your sin and your evil and Jake is your love, your goodness, your
He is of your love. Just kidding.
yeah. Anyways, uh and so them together, they kind of in a way they represent your conscience of good and evil and your yin and your yang at the same time. Um and they're performing this juggling act as you go through life because your life is kind of like a juggling act if you think about it. But anyways, they're throwing these fireballs to each other as a show to make it into Shangri-La. But Jack, being who he is, every time you do something evil in your life, he throws in curveballs into the act to try to throw the act off. And when they and I always feel like when they say Jekyll drop ball, Shangri-La dies, and I feel like that's what he's doing is he's throwing that ball as a curveball to throw the act off so that Jake drops the ball and your chance of Shangri-La is gone because of all the sin and all the evil shit you're doing in your life.
Yep.
And I think that's really as far as there. I mean, I know there's more to the lore, and we'll have to cover that when we go over these guys again.
Mm-hmm.
I feel really sad because I know I have a whole thing written about these guys. But that's really, I would say, the gist of these guys, though, as far as who they are and what they do.
Right.
I feel like, let me think, who have we? I would say that Jack very much works inside with the ringmaster
Right.
because the ringmaster he grows the more evil you are,
Right.
and he's in favor of that because he's trying to make the act um he's trying to throw the act off. So I think the more the ringmaster grows, the more I don't know how to explain that. Like it, they favor each other and help each other
Well,
out. I
maybe
feel
he
like.
supplies the extra fireballs to Jake
Well,
to throw into the act.
I mean, you could maybe see it that way. I'm trying to figure out because the way I see it is like I don't think they necessarily like. It, the only way I can really put it right now is that they're on the same side.
Right.
And it's kind of hard because I can't really go too far into it, and it's making it
Without.
harder to describe. Yeah, without getting into the other cards.
Right.
Have we only ever talked about Ringmaster and?
Fearless Fred Fury. Those are the only two that we've done so far.
Okay, I kind of feel like he's. I kind of feel like nah, I think he's kind of a Fearless But Furious probably. Anyway, sorry. Yeah, but I do know for a fact that at least in the way the lore is portrayed in my mind, is Jack and the Ringmaster are kind of on the same side of things as far as like their role and the place that they are
Mm-hmm.
in the Dark Carnival lore. Um, but yeah, gosh, I can't wait till we talked about all the cards because then I can really make it make more sense.
Right.
Um,
But like if there was an alignment chart, if we were gonna do one, Jake would
yeah,
be more on like the evil side versus Jack, who's obviously good and more like towards Shangri-La and
yeah, yeah.
mm-hmm.
Um, and I think the another thing too is I think the candle itself. I think the candle and the light of the candle is supposed to represent the spark of life of you and your life and where it's headed.
Yep.
And I think I also kind of think there's more of like who is shown more in the flame depending on your life too. But anyways, I'd have to. That'll probably have to be something in a later on a
Right.
re when we come back to this topic again.
A candle? I've got electricity at my house.
But anyways, you can if you want, you can go into the like the numbers and
Right.
all the
Okay.
stuff you have.
So, just like we did with Fearless Fred Fury, we broke out the numerology uh, that we used for Fred. But the problem with this one is that there just wasn't much to go on because all I have is his Joker card number, which is 5, and
Uh
the day he was released, which oddly enough breaks down in numerology to the number 4. So again,
I
who does
could
that
I could give
make you
I could
think
give you
of?
more numbers that you probably didn't think of to look up with these guys.
That's true. I what any numbers in specifically?
Well, they each juggle 3 fireballs.
Okay.
So you could look up the number 3 or together the number 6.
Yeah. Yeah, because technically
Um,
they start off, so it's 6 balls technically. So yeah, we'll go with the number
yeah.
6.
Um, between the two, there's also I would say the number 2 because they're twins.
Yeah.
Um, I'm trying to think. I know there was other things.
Oh, and I guess you could do 17 tracks, which means the number 8.
Right.
All right, so I'm gonna go on to numerology.com where I went and got all the rest of this stuff.
And
So,
then you got to look up into their colors.
oh, that's right.
And also looking up the symbolization of fire and what a candle symbolizes.
Right. Okay, so we'll start off with the number 2 because
Okay.
they are twins, and it's the
Well,
first
why
thing
don't
you see about them.
I was gonna say why don't you start with the numbers that you already have, and then
Okay, so the life path number is the first number I came up with. Now that's when
Mhm.
you take Jake and Jack's what do you call it? When you take their uh the day they were released, essentially their birth
Okay.
date, which was May 25th, 1999. And when you
Right.
break it all down, it becomes the life path number 4.
Okay.
And with life path number 4, it says dedicated, patient, down to earth, and hardworking. People with a 4 life path number are a great source of stability in our world. They aren't interested in rocking the boat because they know that constant, steady effort is the surest path to their goals. Life Path 4 people are consistent in their methods and their moods, and they keep themselves composed. They experience a range of emotions just like everyone else, but their practical way of processing their feelings keeps them from going to extremes. With a wide range of knowledge, Life Path number 4 people are natural teachers. They are confident in what they know and speak with such clarity and authority that others accept what they say. They need to remember, though, that they are also students and that there is always, always more to learn. Life Path 4 people tend to make firm decisions about what is right and close the door on anything new or different. Stuck with outdated methods and old information, these people may come up short of their true potential. And in a relationship, people with the life path of number 4 are honest, loyal, and committed, and they need the same from a partner. Trust and fidelity are vital to them, and it's important they find someone who shares their religious perspectives and values. 4 people will not waste their time with someone they're not compatible with, but when they find that special someone, they work hard to make the relationship successful and are in it for the long haul. Though a relationship with a life path number 4 person won't be the most exciting one, it is sure to be stable and prosperous.
So that actually, funny enough, that reminds me. That's crazy. That reminds me of some of the other lore that I actually kind of forgot now.
Hmm.
So obviously, I explained the whole part with Jack throwing the curveballs, but there's a flip side to that because I feel like there's another part in the lore where I feel like they also have because I said they're your yin and yang.
Right.
I feel like I've always felt like they are also a representation of balance.
Yes.
Because you always can't have one without the other, and you have to find that perfect balance of both. I feel like in life, because I feel like if you think you're too good, because I think like on Jake's side, you try to be too good. I feel like there's a such a thing as being too good to the point where you're evil, if that makes sense.
Right.
I don't know how to explain that, but I feel like that can like you're so good that it's like the people that have that attitude where I'm holier than thou because they think they're so good that they can do no wrong.
Right.
And I feel like if you get to that point, that is another time where I think Jake can or Jack, yeah, Jake can also drop the ball and mess it up because he thinks he's so his flame and ego has gotten so big that he thinks that he's perfect. He doesn't have to pay attention to what he's doing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so Jake is overconfident in his ability to juggle, and he can
Yeah,
cause the act to go awry because he's literally like, "Oh yeah,
and
this is
so
easy,"
and
and
so they kind of need each other to help counterbalance each other out.
right, and yeah, so like, say the act is going too fast, Jake or Jack will try to slow it down to create uh or I mean Jake when he's getting or Jack when he's getting too chaotic, Jake will slow the act down and I'm like, no, we need to
Yeah,
make this easier for us. And he's literally like counterbalancing everything that Jake is throwing at him. And
yeah, exactly.
Jake being overconfident, like, oh yeah, we can do this. I'll just throw a crap ton at you. And Jake's like, hold on a minute, we got to get
Right.
this. Yeah,
And
no,
then
I
whereas
totally get that.
Jack is has a malicious side where he'll try to throw the act off as well, though when you're too much evil.
Yep.
Yeah, so it's like a counterbalance of each other.
Yeah.
And I think that makes sense. Like when they were talking there, it totally it just kind of I just remembered that because when they were talking about needing balance in a partner that they share equal. You know, I don't know if it was talking about a love partner, but I was just looking at it as like a partner in the act or whatever have you.
Right. Well, and they have to be because, like you said, they're twins. They're the equal and
Yeah,
opposite of each other.
right.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, and talking about needing that balance and
Yeah. And the fact that it's a slow and steady type of thing, that's exactly what
yeah,
juggling is. It's a
mm-hmm,
it's a constant moving forward. The act has to continue because if it doesn't, you drop the ball. And so,
exactly.
yeah. Um and yeah, being slow, steady and then but they are also students, so at the same time they're learning how to do this act because every single person is different. So they have to learn how to control the juggling act as they debut to each person in the afterlife. Um,
Yeah,
that kind of thing. So I could totally see that. And they're also very knowledgeable because juggling is a very skillful thing. Not everybody can do it without a ton of practice. So
mm,
that's what I read from this. And it's also steady effort is the surest path to their goals
right.
and their moods. So yeah.
Yeah.
So I think
No,
that
that totally
makes
makes a lot of sense. Yeah,
yeah. And the
it's just
fact that they're
funny.
members of the Dark Carnival, you have to be hardworking. So, I mean, there's a lot that I could just slap on and be like, "Yep, that's what that means." But I mean, obviously, it's more metaphorical as well. So,
Well, it's just how much that actually tied in with some of the lore that I had. Like I said, there's so much that I can't because I wrote that this a lot of this. Well, at least when it came to the first deck, I
hmm
wrote that shit like over fucking God, probably over. I would say at least over 12 years ago.
hmm
So yeah, I mean, yeah, I haven't. I don't know. I wish I knew where it was because I might rewrite it all down. But anyways, that's beside the point.
right. All right, and then moving on to the number 5 because it is the fifth card of the first deck. Uh, it says here that a key characteristic of the number 5 is curiosity and the need for a variety of exciting experiences in order to feel fulfilled. It craves freedom and adventure and isn't afraid to let the wind carry it where it may. For the 5, life isn't about setting goals and making plans. It's about getting out there and experimenting. Anything that stirs the senses piques the 5's interest, and it can't wait to partake in the experience. The numerology number 5 is a master of change, able to go with the flow and adapt itself to thrive in different environments and social situations. It is happiest when things feel fresh, high energy, and full of possibility. The moment an experience starts to feel too routine or predictable, the 5 will move on to something more captivating. The only thing this number is truly attached to is being unattached.
Hmm. So what do you get out of that?
So, being a master of change, I mean, obviously, like I was talking about before, with the act, you have two very opposing things here. So, being a 4 and a 5 makes perfect sense here because
Okay.
Jake is Jack is chaotic, whereas Jake is slow and steady and methodical, helping you to stay on your path.
Mm-hmm.
And Jake is the one throwing you curveballs and is constantly looking for new things that could get you into trouble, or putting things in your path to cause you to either add another fireball to the act, uh, or you can go the right way in your decision making. And
Okay.
yeah, and the creativity part. I mean, obviously that doesn't fully manifest in this, but the curiosity part and the uh, need for variety and new experiences. I mean, I think we all feel that. And
I mean, I haven't pondered and had a lot of deep thought
but
on this. This is kind of
but
spare the moment thinking, but the creativity side. Sorry, what were you gonna say?
so for me, I think this more explores ICP versus the card itself, because the card itself is number
Sure.
5, and the amount of, and we already talked about this earlier, with the amount of creativity that these guys put into it. I think it's actually more a reflection on Jay and Shaggy and the direction they decided to
Very,
take this album.
that could very
This
well be true. I
Yeah,
could see that.
because they didn't stick to what was routine or predictable for even them. Uh, they were very adaptive to trying out new things, and I think this is where Mikey Clark took a more prominent role as one of their producers. I'm not sure exactly um, how long
If
that
I remember
relationship's
right,
been.
I think he was there since Carnival of Carnage and before that, actually.
Oh, was he? Oh, okay, so maybe not.
Yeah.
But the direction, like you were saying, with the rock and incorporating a lot of that into it.
Yeah.
Uh,
Um,
yeah.
I was gonna say, like, that could very well be true about the creative side just being them. Because I
Hmm.
remember there was something with Fearless Fred Fury that I remember feeling that way, that more reflected on who they were. But my thought was also just with a spare the moment thought, but like I wonder if maybe the creativity could also just have to do with the act itself of the juggling
Right.
in creating the act and creating where your life and your path of which way you're going,
Hmm.
creating which way that act is going to go. Is it going to be more steady? Is it going to be more chaotic? Is it going to be more messy? Like,
Right.
yeah, just a thought. I'm not saying that that's
Right. Well, and two, just the creativity alone, because I think of juggling, and we obviously we're going to imagine the Jeckel brothers juggling fire because that's
oh
their
sure,
imagery and stuff. But uh, juggling acts themselves get more and more creative. I've seen people juggle chainsaws, tables, just
boards.
yeah, just random crazy stuff, and it gets more and
Yeah.
more creative all the time. And it it doesn't necessarily mean that when you're watching the show, because obviously this is going to be a very personal thing to whoever you are, and when you're looking
Mm-hmm.
at the act, those fireballs might actually be your sins, or the
You're
balls make it bigger or
good.
smaller depending on what that was. Uh,
Sure.
I almost wonder if, like, for every good thing you do, I've actually I wanted to I was gonna ask you this a long time ago, and I don't know why I never did, but like I almost wonder for like everything that good that you do, instead of adding another fireball to the act to confuse Jake with, I wonder if Jack can actually like extinguish some of those fireballs during the act. Like for every
Hmm.
good deed you've done, he lessens the amount of those fireballs that they're juggling, and it then just becomes your sins. But he's able to like counteract. I'm not saying that
I
he.
mean, I think some of this, I think a lot of the Dark Carnival lore, very
Mhm.
much with like most religions, really, I think it depends on the individual and the way you receive the crypt, what's the word I'm looking for? Uh,
How you
just
perceive it.
Yeah, because I feel like in a way a lot of it's different to the individual. Like with and I think Jay's even said this when it comes to like, for instance, the talk of Dark Carnival being God.
Hmm.
I don't think he's necessarily talking about the Christian God. He's talking about whatever God or deity it is that you believe in and follow, or lack thereof. However that would work, I'm not sure. But my point is, it's not just one god that he's talking about. He's talking about all the gods being the Dark Carnival, and that's kind of how I've always kind of viewed God these days. Is like, I think the creator or whatever it is, for instance, Odin and Ra, and like, I think it's all one entity, and I think that's what the Dark Carnival is supposed to represent, is like one entity
And it's
that
just
is.
how we would see it.
Yes. And I think similarly, when we're talking about this act, I mean, to me, the way I always seen it was like he just threw more fireballs in there, making it more harder to,
Juggle.
keep the act up. But, it could be perceived that way, that, maybe he is able to also, Jake is able to extinguish the balls, or maybe it's not even like that. Maybe, Jack, the more evil thing your life is, he makes the fireballs bigger
Right.
and harder to handle and hold, and maybe Jake is able to make them smaller and easier to throw around.
Right. Yeah, it's just one of those things that I've always been interested in because, like,
And
I
like,
remember the
maybe to
Tom
make.
Wood.
Sorry, go on.
I remember the Tom Wood photos, and I freaking love Tom Wood. He is such a great artist. But anyway, like when you see them in that realistic style, like I imagine like seeing that,
Yeah,
and
definitely.
as they're before you doing the act, and like you said, making the balls grow or get smaller. That's why I'm thinking, so for every bad thing, it makes that one fireball just that much larger.
Right.
Whereas then when Jake or Jack catches it, or Jake catches it, and he's like, "Nah, you did some good things," so it makes it get smaller and easier for him to hold. And like you said, so too much sin, and the ball just gets too hard, and Jake can't literally catch it anymore.
Yeah, and I think that's part of. If it makes sense, I think that's part of just the magic of the Dark Carnival Wars. I feel like it's just different to each individual and how it perceives and makes it work for them.
Right.
And so, I did, maybe one thing I should always probably disclaimer in these is just what we're saying isn't necessarily
Right.
that we're not saying this is what it is,
Yeah.
and that this is what ICP was doing and saying.
Right.
We don't fucking know. We don't even know them personally. We've
Yeah.
never even talked
Exactly.
to them.
Yeah.
This is just how we view it, or even our, even separate. Like, I think even you and I have our difference on how we see certain things too, but I feel like we just have a lot of similar ideas as well. But I think it's different for each person. So doesn't necessarily mean
Oh.
that what it is,
Right.
if that makes sense. Yeah.
Oh, somebody was trying to call me or something. But anyway, uh,
Yeah, I got someone trying to call me too.
Okay. But anyway,
I'll just
uh,
call him Voorhees for now.
yeah. But yeah, no, you're absolutely right. It is. This is just 100% our interpretation
Right.
of everything, and for me personally, yeah, I just like to think of the Dark Carnival because like after discussing everything about Fred Fury and like the Ringmaster, like I had never really put that much of a spin on of it, because like we said in the very beginning, we were both raised very Christian, and
Yeah,
so
we used to hang around with holy rollers a lot growing up.
so that's what that's where my like philosophy stems
Yeah,
from.
I
But
was raised and grown up in it, and
yeah,
I don't.
so
I'm more pagan now, but yeah,
hmm I
where I can. Oh.
yeah, I subscribe to agnosticism more than anything else because I do believe in a higher power. I do believe that there is something much greater than myself and an entity that is
Yeah,
above us all. But
I think it's just
because
ultimately. Sorry, go on.
yeah, but because I don't believe in any one true religion. I don't think you do either, though. Like one is
No,
over all the others.
the only
Uh,
reason I see pagan is I feel like it's the most relatable because I do believe in doing like I do spells and I do spell work and I do a lot of spirituality. I believe more in spirituality, I guess you could say, more than anything. I
well,
don't believe in religion.
well, when I come to this next part, you are gonna flip your lid, I think. Uh, because I was looking ahead. So we had you'd also brought up the number two, essentially
Mhm.
because they are twins, and I just found this here, and it says the numerology number two is known as a supremely feminine force, one that represents both grace and power. It is cooperative, always aiming to bring peace and balance back to a relationship or situation. This number is also very sensitive. Of all the numbers, it has the strongest intuition. It is able to sense currents and feelings instinctively, then use these clues to connect with others empathetically. At its very core, the number two in numerology represents partnerships, the coming together or balancing of two individual people, concepts, or things. While it holds great power over any situation, it wields it with such diplomacy and tact that the result is not control and authority, but harmony and teamwork. It is a mediator, able to see two sides of a situation in an unbiased way and guide others down the middle road.
Yeah, I mean, again, I feel like that just goes hand in hand with what we were just saying.
Yes. And that's why I said flip your lid because it's like, yeah, that's exactly what it is. I mean, uh it's the mediator. They're the ones that are going to decide your fate, and who better to do that than a juggling duo, in my opinion.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah. Well, they kind of like
or
determine your.
represent that.
I was gonna say, I feel. Well, dang it.
Yeah.
Not to go too far into other Joker cards we haven't discussed yet, but I feel like they, at least to me, is I feel like they determine your route of which way you're headed, and then is decided upon by the riddle box.
Right. That's true because you do have to turn the crank.
And then I feel like the missing link are your paths. But anyways,
Right.
I gotta.
We need to just we I think we should just do an episode and tie everything together just to get it out of the way.
It's gonna be
Our
a long episode because like there's a lot to cover,
well, we'll
and
just do it as
especially
a
with there being almost 12 cards now, like.
oh, it can only take what 2 hours per card. That's not a lot.
I mean, we could maybe do like one where we cover the first deck, and then do a part two to cover the second deck,
Right.
and
That's true.
then, um, yeah, that might be a thing.
Yeah. And no, we haven't done Bang Pow Boom yet. Uh,
No, we've only done the two, like you were saying.
dang. Because yeah. I I would love to do a Carnival of Carnage and Bang Pow Boom kind of mashup type of thing. Figure out where they both fit. But anyway, that will be for a completely different time. But yeah, no, I love that number two. But here's what really thought made my thought process go. So there's also strengths and weaknesses to each of these numbers, and I'll go to the strengths. But the one that just really stuck out to me is that the weakness of the number two is that they are indecisive. In an effort to always stay in the middle, the number two has a hard time seeing biases, which makes it difficult to make decisions both large and small. When a preference cannot be identified one way or the other, this number gets stuck in inaction. Easily hurt, the drive to instill harmony within itself and with others is so strong that even the slightest irk or insult can throw the number two off balance and into a world of hurt. There are very
Yeah,
sensitive energies here. After everything it puts into creating unity, anything that threatens or works against these efforts feels especially painful to the two.
yeah.
And then,
It just feels like it's just describing the act in general.
yeah, and then unassertive. The number two will put its own needs aside in order to keep the peace. More passive than assertive, it may stay in an unpleasant situation far too long, quietly struggling to make it better on its own instead of being more direct and efficient in its actions. It will often choose its current experience over a new and different path.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it just. I feel like bad just being like, yeah, but I mean, like, what else is there to say? It's basically just described what we just said,
Yeah.
just in different terms.
Yeah. And that's why too, and I really wish we could at some point we need to interview Violent J, and I need to ask him if he is into numerology, or if
I know
him
'cause
or Joe is.
some of that numerology shit, like some of it, I feel like maybe it could be just us stretching it to fit what we think it is,
Right.
but some of it feels so like spot
On the nose.
on. Too
Yeah.
much of it to just be coincidence.
Right.
Where it's like, come on,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah, like when we discussed the number 17 and like how all of
yeah,
that combined and made every I was just like,
yeah,
oh,
that
okay.
the 17 shit was like the meaning of 17, that was mind blowing.
Yes.
I couldn't believe how spot on that was.
Yeah. Okay, so now I brought up their colors if you wanted to, or no, we want to do the number 6 as well?
Yeah, I might as well.
Okay. So the number
I feel like you could
6,
even do three to kind of get them as an individual too.
that's true. And if we split the number 4, it's also a number 2. So that oh wow. Okay. I wasn't even thinking about that, but it's a life path of number 4, which
Mm-hmm.
2 and 2 make 4. So, wow, that actually fits even better than I thought.
I know it's crazy.
Yeah. And I have a feeling 6 and 8 are going to be exact opposites of each other. So here we go with the number 6.
Six. Wait, where does eight come in?
So 8, if you combine the track lists together of 17, you get 1 and
Oh,
7, which reduces to 8.
gotcha.
So, but here's the number 6 when you take 3 and 3 together. So think about how every, oh, wait, here it is. The number 6 is the embodiment of the heart. It represents unconditional love and the ability to support, nurture, and heal. It is a powerful force of compassion and empathy, and its warm light is a beacon of hope. Its role is to use its heart and soul to be of service to others. The 6 in numerology shines in partnerships of all kinds, but especially emotional ones. Its empathy makes others comfortable letting down their guard and being open and honest about their feelings, which in turn allows it to understand and provide the help that's needed. We could all use someone in our life who manifests the energy of 6.
Hmm.
That's most definitely Jake, because he
Yeah,
is
I was
of your
gonna say. I
love.
feel like. Yeah. What does 3 give you?
So let's go ahead and check that out. Whoops. So number 6. Oh, why did I do that? I meant to say 3. There we go. So the 3 has a tendency to thrive in an upbeat and engaging atmosphere. Its energy is youthful and positive, and it has an incredible zest for life. It dances from one enjoyable experience to the next, eager to interact with others along the way. The prized skill of the number 3 is communication, and it uses this talent to build a wide and interesting circle of friends, lovers, and kindred spirits. The 3 is highly original and embraces unique thinking and creative expression. This number's artistic, curious nature allows it to convey abstract ideas and find solutions others may miss. A child at heart, the number 3 never misses a chance to have fun, engage with others, and express all the love and joy it embodies.
Huh. Some of that
But,
makes sense. Huh?
right, but let's look at the weakness of the number 3. Naive, the young and innocent nature of the number 3 makes it very unaware of the realities of the world because it hasn't had any experience to develop this mature wisdom. It is susceptible to making poor decisions, putting itself in bad situations, and getting burned by others. Unfocused, this number suffers from shiny object syndrome. It is excited by everything it sees and won't spend much time looking in one direction before shifting focus elsewhere. It is so full of enthusiastic energy that it just wants to live and love and laugh and create, which means real life goals and progress fall by the wayside. The 3 in numerology prefers to live on the surface of life and relationships. To go deeper would mean opening itself to potential negativity and having to relate to feelings and situations that it doesn't have much experience with. This number puts pleasure before growth. If it isn't lighthearted and enjoyable, the 3 would rather not participate at all.
So that's funny. It kind of feels like both the positive and negative of that number hits both of them.
Exactly.
It also hits another card that we have not discussed, anyways.
Oh, well,
Um,
we will have to do that one next just because.
but that's crazy.
Yeah. And it does. It does. It 100% fits both of them because it's naive, young, full of life, always looking for the new thing, whatever's pleasurable, that's all it's seeking. And so when you take both of those things and you put it in a juggling act, there
Right.
has to, again, yeah, it makes perfect sense.
It's insane.
Clown posse? Just kidding. Uh,
Ah,
ah, we need a counter for Rex's dumb jokes, and then I'll just
we need a lot of counters for things.
right. Uh, but yeah, so I always thought that was pretty cool. Um,
Yeah, I crazy to me just how much
yeah,
things make sense.
when you put it in these terms, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so now we will look at the number 8. Of all the numbers in numerology, the number 8 is the achiever and measures life by goals it reaches. It has good business sense, a powerful presence, and a strong drive for success. The 8 is also a symbol of balance. You can see it in its symmetrical shape. For every blessing it receives, it puts one back out to the universe. When things are balanced, they feel stable, controlled, and supported, which is the most productive environment for the 8 to work in. In Chinese culture, the number 8 is considered the luckiest number of all and is purposefully worked into wedding dates, birth dates, addresses, and finances. Even in the world of numerology, there are people who have been known to change their name in order to add more eights to their numerology chart, hoping to emulate this number's level of accomplishment. The 8 represents an ultimate form of achievement that many will spend their entire lives striving for. And this is another one of those ones where I would attribute it more to ICP than the
Yeah,
actual card itself, but
right,
it makes perfect sense because they were literally working to a goal. They were finishing out the first Joker's deck.
right.
Um, and again, it leads to the Wraith. But anyhow, uh, yeah, just the overall meaning for the album itself. I think if you wanted to give an overarching theme for what it could mean uh,
Yeah.
to them,
Well, I
uh,
also just think it's funny that all most of the numbers, at least, they
mhm,
all, when it comes down to it, it's all about balance.
yes,
Like that's like the overarching theme with most of these, and that's
yeah, yeah, it's just crazy. Yeah, when you add
yeah,
it all up, the life path number, their 4 and 5 are considered opposites of each other. 3 matches both of them as the cards themselves, and then you take the number 8, which is a symbol of balance and power. So,
yeah.
uh, yeah.
So what about like flame or fire? What does that give us?
So I went into the color meanings, and
Oh, okay.
yeah, I did red, orange, and yellow since those are the
Hmm.
primary colors of fire, obviously. Um, but it
Well,
says
they're
here
what red? They're yellow and
red,
the
and
yeah,
orange is their combination. So
right.
I put them all together. Um, red is the color of extremes. It's the color of passionate love, seduction, violence, danger, anger, and adventure. Prehistoric ancestors saw red as the color of fire and blood, energy, and primal life forces, and most of red symbolism today arises from its powerful associations in the past. Red is also a magical and religious color. It symbolized superhuman heroism to the Greeks and is the color of the Christian crucifixion. Red was almost as rare as and as expensive as purple in ancient days, a fact that many may explain its magic and power. Paradoxically, today's intense red comes from crushed insects instead of being an expensive thing to produce. So, hello?
Hey,
Oh, okay. Just want to make sure I didn't lose you. It got quiet there for a second.
no, you're good. I was
Okay.
just thinking about what you just said.
Yeah,
I mean, some of that kind of makes sense with the whole anger.
right. And it's the color of extremes. And
Yeah,
obviously, Jake and Jack being
yeah,
extremes.
they're
Let's.
very extreme. I think I wouldn't say they are but they are a extreme Joker card. I think though,
Yeah,
like there are certain ones I would describe being more extreme than the others.
right. I'd agree with that. So that was red. Then we move on
Hmm.
to orange. Oh, actually, no, we'll do yellow first. Uh, Yellow is the most luminous of all the colors of the spectrum. It's the color that captures our attention more than any other color. In the natural world, yellow is the color of sunflowers, daffodils, egg yolks and lemons, canaries, and bees. In our contemporary human made world, yellow is the color of SpongeBob, the Tour de France winner's jersey, happy faces, post it notes, and signs that alert us to danger or caution. It's the color of happiness and optimism, of enlightenment and creativity, sunshine and spring. Lurking in the background is the dark side of yellow, which is cowardice, betrayal, egoism, and madness. Furthermore, yellow is the color of caution and physical illness, with jaundice, malaria, and pestilence. Perhaps it's no coincidence that the sources of yellow pigments are toxic metals: cadmium, lead, and chrome, and P.
Hmm. So what do you get from that?
So, uh, again, it's a dual color. It can mean very great things or it can mean very terrible things. Um,
Hmm.
because when you see a yellow school bus, we hated school, but we wanted to see our friends. And which is a weird way to put it. I mean, obviously, it's not a very good
Right.
analogy, but that's just the first thing I
But I
think of.
mean, but like what they were saying too in the description, I could see what you're saying because, like, for instance, it's the color of like sunflowers, canaries, all these like nice things, and then it's also the color of like toxic frogs,
Mm-hmm.
uh, heated metals, and
Yep. And it's also, yeah, so a lot of toxic things and bad things for you, but it also things that bring life and joy, and it's a
right.
very duality color, which makes a lot of sense.
Which
Uh,
really, if you think about it, with red, I kind of view red that way too, because red can represent also like love and
yeah,
warmth, and then it can also represent hatred and anger.
destruction.
Yeah,
So yeah, them being paired, which is so crazy to think about, red and yellow to get.
yeah. I never really thought about it, but that actually is crazy how that works. I never thought
Hmm.
about that with them.
Right? And then we move on to orange, and it says here, orange is vibrant. It's hot, healthy, fruity, and engaging, but it can be abrasive and crass. It's a polarizing color. People love it or hate it. Orange is the only color of the spectrum whose name was taken from an object, the popular fruit, the orange. In nature, it's the color of vivid sunsets, fire, vegetables, flower, fish, and many citrus fruits. In our contemporary world, orange is the color of marmalade, Halloween, traffic cones, life rafts, Cheetos, and Halloween. It said Halloween twice. I don't know why. Anyway, orange symbolizes energy, vitality, cheer, excitement, adventure, warmth, and good health. However, pure orange can be brass. However, it may suggest a lack of serious intellectual values and bad taste. Orange is currently a trendy, hip color. It was a groovy color back in the 70s and then it faded away. In 91, and blah, 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 blah. I don't care about that. It's worth noting that there are many shades of orange and different meanings. Some may be more appealing to those who find orange difficult: terracotta or cayenne, a dark orange; persimmon, a red orange; pumpkin, a pure orange; mango, a yellow orange; salmon, a pink orange; melon, a light orange. Huh. Okay.
Alrighty.
But uh, but the part about it being a polarizing color, obviously, ta-da,
Right.
again, and and it makes sense. I mean, red and yellow combining, all being duality colors,
Right.
creating another duality color does not seem too far off.
No. Uh. Yeah. What did you? Oh yeah. So now look up the meaning behind a flame or fire, and then symbolism of a candle.
So before I do that, I also had down here its zodiac sign. So
Oh.
May 25th, 1999, was the year of the rabbit, and more specifically, an earth rabbit. And it says here that people with the Chinese zodiac rabbit have a firm character and always do their best to accomplish their goals. They are full of ambition and quite enterprising. Most of them enjoy traveling very much. Earth rabbits are good at thinking and can be mild-mannered, amiable, and they too can be pretty ladies, if you're feminine or masculine. However, they lack flexibility in their work, so they always solve problems in the same way. They lack sense of humor and they are not very good at social communication. Moreover, they are so impatient that they cannot stick to one thing for a long time.
Hmm. And what is the astrology sign for?
Oh, I didn't even look at that. I need to follow that up. So, oh, okay. Well, uh, that would have been a Gemini, and the Gemini is the twin.
I wow. I how did I never know that? That's crazy. They had to have
Yeah.
that there any okay. Well, um golly. Um
Yeah.
I don't even know what to say to that besides they had to have known.
Right. Yeah. And the element for Gemini is the air. The most representative three characteristics for a person born under this element are being able to come up with the perfect word in a situation, having the wisdom to concretely manifest ideas, and generally appreciating and accepting of others. The mod the modality for this sign is mutable. In general, people born under this modality are described by deals with unknown situations very well, very flexible, and likes almost every change.
hmm. Kind of wonder. I have to do some more digging in that because that's crazy.
Yeah. Isn't it though?
I can't. I don't. I'm not trying to create dead space, but that kind of blew my mind for a minute there. How did I not know that they were released in the year of the Gemini? That makes so much fucking sense.
well, with the regular zodiac, it's just the month, but yeah, their birthday, their release date would make them a Gemini if that's the day they were born.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I think that's so cool. That is so freaking awesome.
Right.
Uh, and then you have the where is it? Oh yeah, the fire symbolism. Fire. So this is coming from interestingliterature.com and the symbolism of fire in literature and myth. And by the way, the zodiac that I got that from was the zodiac.co. But anyway, of all the major symbols in literature, art, and religion, perhaps no symbol is more ambiguous and double edged than fire. Fire symbolism can simultaneously denote illumination and purification and destruction and pain. What are some of the main meanings of fire and symbolism in literature and art over the centuries? In Greek mythology, the symbolism of fire is bound up with the myth of Prometheus, the story which explains how mankind came into possession of fire, thus enabling man to form civilization. Of the four Aristotelian elements, fire is the only one which man can create, so the gift of fire symbolizes kinship between mortals and gods. However, in Hesiod's telling of the story, the earliest full account of the story of Prometheus, man already had possession of fire, but Zeus withdrew it. Prometheus then stole divine fire back from his fellow gods and gave it back to man. Prometheus, being cunning and rebellious, outwitted Zeus and stole the flare of eternal fire from Mount Olympus in, of all things, a tube of fennel. He then took this flame to earth and gave it to man. We have analyzed the Prometheus myth, picking some of the misconceptions surrounding of the story in more detail. Oh, I'm not going to click that link. Um, it's important to note that these elements, Prometheus as a trickster and as the one who stole fire from the gods and gave it to man, exist in other cultures and other myths too. For instance, there are Polynesian figures who stole fire from the gods, and Loki, the Norse trickster god, is associated with fire. As Hans Biedermann notes in his The Wordsmith Dictionary of Symbolism, these trickster figures are probably associated with fire because of its unstable and ambiguous nature. The most famous symbolism of fire in Christian art and scripture is the fires of hell, denoting everlasting torment and punishment for one's sins. In purgatory, fire supposedly purges the soul of sin, and this is an important element of Roman Catholic doctrine. At the first Christian Pentecost, the Holy Spirit, part of the Holy Trinity along with God and Jesus Christ, descended upon Christ's apostles in the form of cloven tongues like as of fire. So once again, fire possesses ambiguous symbolism. The element is associated with both the devil and hell and with God and the Holy Spirit with its purifying tongues of flame. And in Buddhism, the fire sermon is about liberating oneself from suffering through detaching oneself from one's senses, including one's desires, the sensual as well as the sensory, we might say. Everything is burning within us. Buddha tells us passion, hatred, and delusion. Buddha advises people to advise themselves to become disgusted or disenchanted with their senses so they can attain a healthy detachment through being dispassionate rather than passionate. He is freed from these senses. In a 1922, T.S. Eliot published his poem, The Wasteland, the third section of which is titled The Fire Sermon. This section ends with the references to burning and focuses on the sensual passions and the insufficiency of a life lived in pursuit of fulfillment of one's carnal desires. In his note, Eliot comments of the Buddha's fire sermon that it corresponds in importance to the Sermon on the Mount in Christianity. Another modern poet wrote his own translation of the Buddha's fire sermon, which acts as a preface to his collected poems. And there is a lot more to read here. So, fire symbolism in literature. Poets have often played on the symbolism of fire, fire denoting the hot passions, lust, rage, or intense desire. In his sonnet, having discussed the other two classical elements, Shakespeare considers air and fire. The other two, slight air and purging fire, are both with thee wherever I abide. The first my thought, the other my desire. These present absent with swift motion slide. In Shakespeare's time, mainstream scientific belief was that everything was made up of just four elements: earth, air, fire, and water. The two elements, air and fire, are both absent from the bard in this poem, as they have flown to his beloved. Air represents his thought, and fire his desire, and they are both present and absent. Present because he thinks about his beloved and desires him, but absent because they have flown to be with his beloved. So uh, So fire apparently, obviously it's the duality again.
Yeah, I was gonna say I feel like that's the gist. I don't really need to go into all the.
Yeah,
It sounds like there's a lot there to kind of just dissect through, and
yes, but again, and that's why I also love the fact because I don't care if people think that ICP are just some simple street kids that got popular because of some music they created. They put a lot of thought and effort into this stuff.
no, honestly, like they're a lot smarter than I think a lot of people give them credit for. Cause some of the shit they do just blows my mind.
Yeah.
And I never would have thought, like things I just wouldn't think of. And I'm like, oh shit, that makes sense. It's like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So yeah, that was the symbolism of fire.
And what do we got for a candle? A candle, huh?
Yeah. I've got electricity in my house.
This is not an ordinary candle, my
Candle. I'm not really into old shit like this. Well, I think this is going to be the closest I can get. Um, Tallow is a type of candle that I would assume is what the candle for the Amazing Jeckel Brothers is made out of. Um,
Mhm.
yeah. But here is a bit significance of tallow candles in literature, revealing their enduring presence in classic and contemporary works. As a symbol of time, in literature, tallow candles often symbolize the passage of time. Their gradual melting represents life's fleeting nature, and the eventual extinguishing serves as a reminder of our morality or mortality. This symbol appears frequently in 18th and 19th century works when candles were a daily feature. Burning the candle at both ends. This well known phrase suggests overexertion or living life to the fullest. It originates from the short burn time of tallow candles as a literary device. This imagery represents a character's reckless or excessive behavior. In Gothic and horror genres, tallow candles are synonymous with Gothic and horror literature. Used to create an eerie and ominous atmosphere, the flickering light of tallow candles sets the stage for suspenseful scenes and supernatural encounters. Beyond Gothic and horror genres, tallow candles have made their mark in classic literature, contributing to the ambiance and atmosphere of various works. Uh, in Charles Dickens, such as A Christmas Carol and Great Expectations, featured tallow candles to illuminate the dim and dreary world of Victoria, England. Jane Austen, in Austen's Pride and Prejudice, tallow candles set the scene for evening gatherings and intimate conversations, reflecting Regency era social norms. Uh, and in conclusion, tallow candles have evolved from a practical light source into a powerful literary symbol. Their presence in literature, particularly Gothic and horror genres, signifies time, mortality, and darker aspects of human nature. As we continue exploring literature, we can appreciate the rich symbolism and significance that tallow candles bring to the page. Which
Hmm.
I would agree with all of that, because whenever you're looking at horror movies and things of that nature, I mean, come on now, we're also talking about the Dark Carnival here. So to use such a fitting type of candle makes a lot of sense.
Right, and they're all portrayed as like spirits of the Dark Carnival, and
Hmm.
that makes sense.
Yeah. So it certainly fits the theme. Um,
Right.
Yeah, I don't know if I mean I like the burning the candle at both ends type thing too, with the twin metaphor we got going on here, and
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and as it's literally a timekeeper, so as the candle melts down, ooh, that's a thought.
I
When
know
you
it kind of
arrive,
got me. It kind of got me thinking about some stuff with that candle that I never really thought about before, and it's kind of making me reanalyze some things.
like what if it's a representation of how long your life is too?
Right. Right. Yeah, I kind of had a similar thought. Like, we'll have to talk about some of that because
Well, 'cause yeah. how long the candle burns determines how long the act goes as well.
Well, yeah, obviously, yeah, because once it either burns up or light is extinguished, like
Maybe maybe if they don't drop the ball before the candle's extinguished, you go to Shangri-La.
hmm, interesting. I gotta think on that because that brings an element that I didn't think about before.
Right?
That's
Neither did I.
interesting. So, why did you said you think that the tallow candle or whatever it's called?
It's because of what it's made from. It's a very common type of candle in.
Oh,
Right. Obviously, there would probably be a supernatural element to this, but um,
well, I was wondering is why not wax or like
because that's what they were made of. I'm just thinking like old timey, the way things
oh,
would have been
because they came
done.
from like an antique store and like
Right.
okay, I gotcha.
Yeah.
That makes sense. And it being a skull, I mean,
Yes.
it could be very well from yeah, interesting,
Like created by like a voodoo priestess or a priest or something. Um,
interesting.
yeah.
Dang, now I'm gonna be thinking about that for a while.
Right. So yeah, um, that is the amazing Jeckel brothers, as far as I can tell. I mean, I think we've gone over just about everything that we can go over.
At least that I can think of right now. I'm sure there's stuff I'm not thinking of or we're not thinking of, but
Yeah,
I don't feel like we were as prepared for this as we were the last one because we didn't take
right.
as much time to go over everything. But
But we did. We came up with some very, very in-depth meaning. I think we went more in depth on this than when we go back to the ringmaster. We are going to have to
oh
really,
yeah,
really dive into him.
I feel like he definitely needs a revamp.
Yes. So yeah. Um, but this is by far, like I said, probably my number one favorite album out of every card that has
Yeah, it's
dropped.
definitely up there.
And the only reason why Bang Pow Boom isn't number one is just because this one holds so much significance for us as friends, brothers, more to
Yeah,
speak. Um,
yeah. I was gonna say to me, I also think of when I think of that card, I think of our friendship too. Usually, so
yeah, and it too has been a balancing act, obviously. So
oh yeah, we've definitely had our ups and downs, and
yeah, so but that is yeah, but I was so glad to do this episode. I don't even know how long we've been streaming for. I think for quite a while actually.
probably
Let's see, when did we start? Um, we started streaming. Oh, it said we started an hour ago. Could have swore we spent more time than that.
so could I.
Yeah, I think my
That's
thing's wrong.
weird.
Yeah, I am going to.
Hopefully, we got everything recorded.
Yeah. Oh, we started streaming more than 2 hours ago. So
Okay. I was
yeah,
gonna say what?
yeah, yeah. It says started streaming 114 minutes ago. So almost two
Good.
hours. But
So
yeah,
what? Do we have a plan for our next episode, or is it just gonna be whenever we do it, or?
so I don't want to give away too many details, but know this. we are going to be live together for our next stream
Okay.
because
Sweet.
I'm making the trek from the frozen north back to where I belong, at least for a couple
In the
days.
in the PNW.
Yes. And we'll be hopefully I want to paint up for this next episode. I think that'd be really fun.
I mean, there's a Party City near the house.
Yes. So,
Not
anyway,
not top quality paint, but it is paint.
yes. As long as it's not acrylic, don't ever use that stuff. That's bad for you, kids. Don't do that.
To get latex paint, we can peel it off.
Right? I thought that was bad too, though.
Probably, but who
Eh,
knows?
who knows?
If we die, we die.
Right. Well, this has been the 13th grave, and we're going to our graves now. But anyway, I really don't have any more to really say at this
Yeah, I don't
time.
know that I have much to add either, really.
Yeah, because I mean, I could just go play the album and then we'd just be singing it for the next 2 hours. I mean, if you want to
Right?
do a sing along, put it in chat. Uh, we'd be more than happy to do that. But anyway, so with all of that being said, this has been the 13th Grave, episode 9, Witness the Light.
Of the amazing Jeckel
Juggalos
brothers.
brothers. Whoop whoop.
Whoop whoop.